Hey friends, welcome back to Bible Fun with the Nuns. We're coming to you live, not really live, but from
pre-recorded
Ridgecrest, North Carolina. We're at youth camp. So we are starting the book of 2 Thessalonians, and it is one of Paul's letters to the church at Thessalonica. Look at there. And in this letter, it's super short, 3 chapters, reminds me of 2 Peter. And it is about the same time period. It's the other side of Jesus's life and death and resurrection and ascension. And now the Christians are being persecuted. People who have been followers of the way are being persecuted. And so these disciples and the apostles are writing to all these disciples that they have made, these followers of Christ. And they're encouraging them to be faithful in the midst of persecution. And also, some of them have strayed in what they believe and what they're teaching. And these letters are made to correct those things and to say, hey, get to work. Don't forget, don't get lazy. You didn't miss anything. Keep on keeping on. Now, chapter 1 of 2 Thessalonians is a super easy chapter because it's still one of Paul's sweet greetings. Paul's greetings are some of my favorite. Do not sleep on those. They are full of gospel and theology and talking about who God is. And this chapter today is encouraging. He's encouraging the followers of Christ, and he says we should thank God always for you. They're family because of Christ. And he said, we're so proud of you, and we get to brag on you to other people about how you guys are following Christ. And so he's laying the groundwork of reminding them of his relationship with them because he's going to tell them some hard stuff in the future chapters.
That's right. Now, you remember on Sunday, I told you that the books that we're kind of reading in a trio here. So we're reading 1 Peter, 2 Peter, and 2 Thessalonians. This little trio of books is about suffering, and it's about persecution. And what he does often in these books is he's telling them how to deal with persecution by making them look beyond the persecution at the hope they have in heaven. So for the Thessalonians, their persecution began the moment they heard the gospel, and it did not let up. As a matter of fact, when Paul first preached the gospel in Thessalonica and this church was started, it started with a boom, and tons of people got saved. This church got started, but persecution started so fast, they ran Paul out of town in 3 weeks. So this church was 3 weeks old before the guy who preached the gospel to them had to leave. And so now he's writing these letters back, and they were being pressured on all sides. The world was pressuring, false teachers on the inside. Satan was attacking them from all angles. And they began to worry about, what does it mean whenever you go through persecution? Does it mean we've sinned? Does it mean that we've strayed off course? Does it mean we believe lies? They're wondering why they're suffering. And so Paul begins this, like Jen said, he's really celebrating. He says, we are bound to thank God always for you, brethren, as is fitting. Well, the reason why he's so excited to celebrate is because their heart for the Lord, their growth, their personal spiritual growth was growing. As a matter of fact, it was like a surplus of growth. In verse 3, it talks about exceedingly, their faith is growing exceedingly. That means healthy, prolific growth. So that's reason to celebrate. They're growing spiritually. But also they're celebrating because their love for each other was growing. And the reason why their love for each other was growing was just like the brotherhood that comes in wartime. We're brothers who had never met each other before war started, and now they're engaged in the conflict together.
One brotherhood uniting all Christians in service
and love. The old VBS allegiances. So that's what's going on here. And he's telling them basically that even when trials are present, faith can come out stronger than it went in. Because faith expands, our trials expand our faith the way physical exercise expands our muscles. If we don't feel the pressure, we don't ever get stretched. So Paul's encouraging them to see this as something good. And by the way, in verse number 5, he says, this is manifest evidence of the righteous judgment of God, that you may be counted worthy of the kingdom of God for which you suffer. So God could have at any time taken them out of their suffering, as he can do with all of us. But sometimes He chooses to leave us in our trials as a tool for preparation and spiritual growth in our lives. I want you to look down to the very bottom of this. Look in verse number 11. He says, therefore we also pray always for you that our God would count you worthy of this calling. Now listen, he's not talking about worthy to be saved. Nobody is worthy to be saved. That's why we have a God of grace. We can't earn it. He gives us salvation as we trust in his Son. But he is talking about here that as we serve him, we serve him because we're saved. And by the way, what this means is the rest of this verse is about a full kind of surrender to the plan of God. Sometimes those plans are difficult. Why? Because like exercise, it's got to be strenuous to stretch us and to grow us and to flex those faith muscles. And so what he's really encouraging them here to do is to trust the plan of God, to surrender to what God's plan is in order. Listen, sometimes we got to be willing to just kind of put our hands up and go, all right, Lord, you're the boss. You do whatever you need to do in me to make me whatever it is you want me to be. Only you know how to get there, so make it work. Let me give you a Bible verse that gets us there, okay? That when we don't understand we don't understand the process, we can still understand that there's a plan. For God works all things together for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. Trials are no fun. They're stinky, they're messy, they're hard, and I don't like them. But I do like the fruit they produce. And so Paul's saying here, he says, y'all hang on, because God's got a plan for all this. All right, we'll see you in chapter number 2 tomorrow. Keep reading. We love you. Bye.
Bye.